these reasoning models is we talked a lot about reasoning training on math and code. And what is done is that you have the base model we've talked about a lot on the internet. You do this large scale reasoning training with reinforcement learning. And then what the DeepSeek paper detailed in this R1 paper, which for me is one of the big open questions on how do you do this, is that they did reasoning heavy, but very standard post-training techniques after the large-scale reasoning RL. So they did the same things with a form of instruction tuning through rejection sampling, which is essentially heavily filtered instruction tuning with some reward models. And then they did this RLHF, but they made it math heavy. So some of this transfer, we looked at this philosophical example early on. One of the big open questions is how much does this transfer? If we bring in domains after the reasoning training, are all the models going to become eloquent writers by reasoning? Is this philosophy stuff going to be open? We don't know in the research of how much this will transfer. There's other things about how we can make soft verifiers and things like this, but there is more training after reasoning, which makes it easier to use these reasoning models. And that's what we're using right now. So if we're going to talk about with 3 Mini and O1, these have gone through these extra techniques that are designed for human preferences after being trained to elicit reasoning.
I think one of the things that people are ignoring is Google's Gemini Flash thinking is both cheaper than R1 and better.
Yeah.
And they released it in the beginning of December.
And nobody's talking about it.
No one cares.
It has a different flavor to it. Its behavior is less expressive than something like O1, or it has fewer tracks that it is on. Qwen released a model last fall, QWQ, which was their preview reasoning model. And in DeepSeek had R1 Lite last fall, where these models kind of felt like they're on rails, where they really, really only can do math and code. And O1 it can answer anything. It might not be perfect for some tasks, but it's flexible. It has some richness to it. And this is kind of the art of how is a model a little bit undercooked? It's it's good to get a model out the door, but it's hard to gauge, and it takes a lot of taste to be is this a full-fledged model? Can I use this for everything? They're probably more similar for math and code. My quick read is that Gemini Flash is not trained the same way as O1, but taking an existing training stack, adding reasoning to it. So taking a more normal training stack and adding reasoning to it. And I'm sure they're going to have more. I mean, they've done quick releases on Gemini Flash, so reasoning, and this is the second version from the holidays. It's evolving fast, and it takes longer to make this training stack where you're doing this large scale.
Ask it the same question from earlier. The one about the
the human nature.
Yeah.
What was the human nature one?
The way why I can ramble about this so much is that we've been working on this at AI2 before O1 was fully available to everyone, and before R1, which is essentially using this RL training for fine tuning. We use this in our Tulu series of models, and you can elicit the same behaviors where you say wait and such on, but it's so late in the training process that this kind of reasoning expression is much lighter. So there's essentially a gradation, and just how much of this RL training you put into it determines how the output looks.